After their elderly owner passed away, a loyal dog and cat refused to leave the hospital doors. For days, they cried endlessly, confusing staff and breaking hearts. But everything changed when the vet noticed the dog's worn-out collar. He leaned in, read the inscription, and whispered, "Oh my God." Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. In a quiet little town, tucked between rolling hills and winding roads, lived an elderly woman named Margaret. She didn't have much in the way of family, but she was never truly alone. Her constant companions were a loyal German shepherd named Max and a gentle tabby cat named Whiskers. The three were inseparable. Neighbors often saw them walking together, Max at her side, ever protective, and Whiskers trotting close behind. Inside the home, they shared every moment, meals, evenings by the fireplace, and the kind of love that needed no words. To Margaret, they weren't just pets, they were her family. But life has a way of changing without warning. One winter evening, Margaret fell gravely ill. An ambulance rushed her to the hospital, its sirens breaking the silence of the night. Max and Whiskers chased behind, their eyes wide with fear, refusing to let her go alone. At the hospital entrance, the ambulance doors swung open and Margaret was rushed inside. Max barked desperately, trying to follow, while Whiskers meowed with frantic cries. But the automatic doors closed, leaving the two animals outside in the cold night air. From that moment on, they refused to move. Day after day, Max and Whiskers waited by the sliding doors, their eyes fixed on the spot where their owner had disappeared. Nurses and patients passing by couldn't help but notice the heartbreaking sight. A dog lying with his head on his paws, silent tears wetting his fur, while the cat curled tightly beside him. Hospital staff tried to shoo them away, even offering scraps of food, but nothing could break their vigil. They cried through the nights, soft whimpers and low meows echoing across the parking lot. To anyone who saw them, it was clear they weren't just waiting. They were grieving, holding on to hope that Margaret would return. After nearly a week, hospital staff realized the animals would not leave. Rain poured, the nights turned bitterly cold, yet Max and Whiskers stayed, huddled together at the entrance, eyes scanning every face that passed. Finally, a call was made to the local animal shelter to bring them in. When the volunteers arrived, they expected frightened strays. Instead, they found heartbreak. Max resisted being led away, his paws digging into the concrete as he glanced. Back at the hospital doors, Whiskers cried softly inside the carrier, her small body trembling. The scene left even the most experienced workers in tears. At the shelter, food bowls were filled, blankets laid out, but neither animal touched a thing. At night, Max stared at the door, ears twitching at every sound, while Whiskers pressed against him, her purrs broken by faint sobs. Volunteers whispered among themselves, this wasn't normal sadness. It was loyalty so deep, it felt human. Every passing day, their grief grew heavier. And yet, none of the staff could have guessed that the truth behind their devotion was waiting to be discovered, etched into something Max had carried with him all along. On the third day at the shelter, the animals were brought to the vet for a routine checkup. Dr. Harris, a kind man with decades of experience, gently approached Max first. The German shepherd's eyes were red from days of crying, yet his loyalty still shone through as he sat obediently beside Whiskers. Dr. Harris began his examination, checking Max's heart, lungs, and joints. Everything appeared normal for a dog his age. But when he reached for Max's collar, he noticed something unusual. The leather was old, worn, and cracked from years of use. Yet faint engravings glimmered beneath the scratches. Curious, he leaned closer, wiping away the dirt with a cloth. His eyes narrowed as the letters came into focus. For a moment, he froze, his breath catching in his throat. This wasn't just a name tag. There were words carved deep into the collar, words hidden in plain sight. His hands trembled as he read them aloud, his voice breaking the silence of the room. The shelter staff turned toward him, confusion etched on their faces. Dr. Harris's eyes widened in shock. "Oh my God," he whispered. And in that instant, the room changed forever. Everyone crowded around as Dr. Harris held the collar in his hands. The engraving, though faded, was unmistakable. It wasn't just Max's name. Beneath it, in shaky handwriting, were words that sent chills down the room. "If anything happens to me, please keep Max and Whiskers together. They are family." Gasps rippled through the shelter staff. A few volunteers covered their mouths, tears brimming in their eyes. The message was more than instructions. It was a dying woman's plea, carved years ago in preparation for the unthinkable. Margaret had known one day she might leave her pets behind, and she had made sure her last wish would follow them. Dr. Harris's voice shook as he repeated the words. The room fell silent, the weight of the discovery pressing on everyone's hearts. Suddenly, Max and Whiskers' grief made sense. Their bond wasn't ordinary. They were carrying not just love, but the echo of a promise their owner had made. The shelter staff gathered in stunned silence as Dr. Harris carefully explained the significance of the collar. Years earlier, Margaret had come to him for a routine checkup for Max. During that visit, she confessed her deepest fear, that one day she would pass away, leaving her beloved dog and cat alone in the world. Knowing she had no close relatives, Margaret had asked the vet for advice. Together, they came up with a plan. She had Max's collar specially engraved with her final wish, that no matter what happened, Max and Whiskers would never be separated. She believed the collar would outlast her, carrying her message to whoever found them. Tears welled in the eyes of the volunteers as they realized the depth of her foresight. This wasn't just a collar. It was a mother's love carved in leather, a promise stretching beyond life itself. Max whimpered softly, pressing his head against Whiskers as if to remind everyone that Margaret's wish was alive in them still. And for the first time since arriving at the shelter, their grief was no longer a mystery. It was love refusing to let go. The room grew heavy with emotion as the staff absorbed the weight of Margaret's final wish. Some wiped away silent tears, while others stood frozen, overwhelmed by the depth of devotion etched into a worn piece of leather. The collar wasn't just an accessory. It was a voice from beyond the grave. One volunteer, her voice trembling, whispered, she loved them so much. Even in death, she wanted to protect them. Max lifted his head at the sound, his eyes glassy but filled with a strange calm, as though he somehow knew Margaret's promise had been heard at last. Beside him, Whiskers curled closer, her purse soft and steady. The staff made a unanimous decision in that moment. Whatever it took, Max and Whiskers would never be separated. They would be honored, cherished, and kept together exactly as Margaret had wished. It was more than duty now. It was a vow to carry forward a love that had refused to die. A few days later, the shelter received an unexpected call. Margaret's attorney had been informed of her passing, and with him came another revelation. She had already arranged for Max and Whiskers' future. In her will, she had chosen a distant niece and her family to care for them, ensuring her companions would never be alone. When the family arrived at the shelter, Max was cautious at first, his body stiff, while Whiskers hid behind him. But as the woman knelt down, speaking gently and showing them a photo of Margaret she carried, something shifted. Max's tail gave a hesitant wag, and Whiskers crept forward, recognizing a familiar scent of home. The volunteers watched through teary eyes as the pair finally left the shelter, side by side, stepping into a new chapter of life. They weren't just leaving behind grief. They were carrying forward Margaret's love, exactly as she had intended.